Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and boy men and girl women alike. And now for something completely different yet exactly the same. Another episode of Trey's Timeless 15 Minutes of Spring. They got the wheel to steal the whole earth, the ionosphere, and how you feel. But I got the will to heal. Me a part of thousands trying to heal everything. 'Cause all the world's indeed a stage, and me I'm merely a player, confessor and portrayer. 'Cause you understand, there's a real beautiful reality beyond the Saturn cube hex gilded cage. Today I'd like to discuss a little bit more around my trauma, my first spur into becoming a healer, as I've said last night. And this video is going to be called Interference and Self-Confidence. Why it took so long to get here on YouTube? Why did it take me 10 years to post the Heroes theme? Let's see, probably 12 years. Well, I've detailed that in other videos, part of it, but I feel that almost everyone had the beaming of fear or insecurity, unless otherwise. Now, I'm not technically a virgin, but psychologically, you see, I penetrated someone, but interestingly enough, I never unloaded. So there's some that some of these, actually the one I mentioned that got called the N-word, once said, "Oh, they can never do anything to you because you're the V." But I'm not really the V, but I'm actually emotionally that. So that was a huge factor in how they were able to pull that scam on me, or because of my level of insecurity that I was at. And that's why I found it amazing. Maybe the power of Humboldt Bubble is part of it. This one is dry farmed, so planted near the extremely pure water there. And so the power is by the grace of the goddess of Ganjika of California love. Literally has stroked my self-confidence to fake it till you make it. Or, when I was a teenager and people told me once or twice, "Oh, you'll always be in love with, that'll be your girlfriend your whole life." When I became a stoner when I was about 16, I thought it was a horrible idea because the Hollywood media had me convinced that it had to be a woman that I was obsessed with still. And it took me, like I say, till some recapitulation around. Actually, it took a really extremely tragic love bite when I was 35 till I just got rid of that idea. But studying Buddhism and learning the sacred sexual practice of saving the seed helped a huge, tremendous amount. As a friend of mine yesterday gave me a book he wrote on astrological tantra, which I think is really beautiful. The same man, Mr. Baker, he brought Elena Freeland to the Capitola Oneness and Breath Yoga Center, and I watched the 2-hour presentation. So I said, "Man, you're the only guy beside me who would talk about both these subjects." So, but in this video, it's yeah, the story on that was I found a David Deida book, paperback book called The Way of the Superman on the sidewalk when I was about 31. And he teaches married men to save their seed 1 out of every 4 sexual acts. So even doing that, he's taking a sacred ancient practice that was protected and by rituals to keep it from spreading cancer or ego bravado throughout India, and Tibet. And the Tibetans will only whisper about these things; they won't even write about it. So as soon as for one thing, for sure, getting the Mister SA, interference, which is really part of the NA agenda, the engineered viruses and pathogens. In this case, I really consider it. It's they say it's a staff, but I really consider it more to be in a line considered closely more related etymologically to herpes, uh, skin herpes, as well as cancer. Because when I've become really, really upset, like one time I gave my friend this one I made the video about the Pollyanna guy. I gave him my prescription, and I don't know, maybe his entities or just his egotism, or he just forgot. But he never put it up. Now it was kind of stupid of me. I mean, I gave it to him in October. It was really late. But I wanted him to have an extra prescription there. I was in the medical days, so his crop would be safe. And he just like forgot about it. And that then I got a MRSA right here, and it got so big. And just talking about it, I had my little one probably because I didn't wash this hoodie in days, and just if I go into deep drama or trauma, but again, I drink eggs, I sunbathe, and take cannabis CBD, and it doesn't. I've been learned over the last 20 years how to defeat it, but it's a matter of consistency. It's a matter of being really consistent. So the thing I didn't mention in the last ones is when I was in there, I told this visiting head psychiatrist uh, when I was 21 years old, precocious youngster, really not full grown brain. There are no such thing as side effects. There are only direct effects, and that seemed to make his blood boil and want to put me in the straitjacket and the antipsychotics more. And the other thing, like I say before, was that when they heard me talking about astrology, and so it was like a red flag on The Simpsons, like a button under the table. So they want the negative aliens attempt to destroy our self confidence in many ways. Not just what happened to me is the most overt and obvious, but I mean just particularly because I had the high IQ and I was oneness conscious. I myself had the mental program of the 27 Club. Like Jimi Hendrix. I really thought I was supposed to do my best to share my music that had expressed the oneness and die of drugs when I was 27. He was part Native American, by the way. So what causes interference to your self confidence beside this sort of crazy shit that happens like that to me when you make a mistake or you did something reckless and then they say, well, you're crazy, or you have a physical disease, and they actually accuse me, the government accused me of making it up. Perhaps I suffered from Asperger's syndrome or something, or some type of mental retardation that I do believe those exist, but and maybe even bipolar. But any of these type of forms that are kind of like caused by a vitamin mineral deficiency can be totally, if not lessened, and healed through supplementation. I really highly recommend this documentary on the Free Movies channel on YouTube. It's called The Big Secret, and they expose a lot of the stuff I talk about on my channel here. So, um, through our free will, again, through fake informed consent, like what happened to me, they try to impose the image of victimhood on you. And it's like I said many times, it's very, with most people, it's far more subtle than it was with me, man. It's like your anxiety, your stress, your worries, your depression, which is the one I actually seriously identified with the most, is this slogan, I'm depressed. Because when I was 14, and I went to the psychiatrist and got a prescription for Paxil and tried it. I could have gotten a huge lawsuit from that, just like I might have gotten one from my fall or my when that truck hit me if I had gone outside of the county. Again, if you know how to play the system. But I just didn't want. I thought that was dirty money, because it's such black magic to give that stuff to people to begin with. Um, so I'm sure that helped to destroy my self confidence somewhat. Taking out when I was 14 and 15. But I'm not trying to play the blame game. But what it was also is I was on the standard American diet, and I had about, when a teenager has about 10 times the hormones of an adult all of a sudden before they're anywhere near mature, it's like that's when I felt nothing. I mean, I literally felt nothing. Like, I thought it was odd. I mean, I knew teenagers. They told us in seventh grade you're gonna have a lot of hormone rushes and want to have sex and all that, but I felt nothing. So I saw commercials. I thought, well, maybe they can help me, right? So but that again, that's from sitting, being a spoiled upper middle class banker's son, sitting in the room watching TV. And what did I learn from being on the teat of financial vampirism? It even got to a point where only a few times, but several years into it, I begged with the sign for money, and I would steal from Safeway briefly, but I couldn't stand the feeling of that addiction of being addicted to shoplifting is a horrible feeling. But someone told me that Safeway was owned by the Mormons, and they weren't going to prosecute for when it was people trying to steal food just to eat to survive. But I still felt guilty. A really funny story I have about that is there was a manager there. I don't know if I should say it if she still works there, but actually no, she got busted by the management. She was alcoholic. She liked to drink gin, and she's kind of a hippie alcoholic, grown children. She loved me. She'd go on vacation every year to Hawaii. And so I'd find cheese about 15 years ago when I was in Santa Cruz a few years. I'd buy cheese. I'd go look in the health food store and Safeway. I'd get cheese past the date, and I'd ask them to give it to me for half price if it was past or about to be sold that day or past the date. And so when I asked her, she's like, "Oh, you can have all this cheese that's past the date." She was giving me boxes of cheese. I would feed the homeless and eat it myself, sometimes for 4 or 5 days. Until one day the Safeway management said you can't give out cheese anymore. And so, being a Freemason son, a whitey with a high IQ, and musical talent, I was into playing music all the time in those days. Um, well, as soon as I went from collecting cans to receiving money, of course, I moved into a motel room for a while when I got the lump sum. It affected my social status and my sense of responsibility, because I just had money given to me, and I knew it was to heal the Mr. SA and the to try to heal any mental illness I had, but I also knew that the government was fully aware that because I told them in the interview that I'm sure I knew they recorded the 10 years previous that the body can heal itself. So as I've said before, I always viewed it as a contract. Either if I obey the dark ones, it would just be like a suicide to just be on the teat. But I considered it, and as over the years, after a few years of eating sugar, still I pretty much cut that shit out of my diet. And so how do they interfere with your a normal an average person's life? Stuck in 3D survival, the misery, even in my case, through not working, say $900, $1,200 a month in the state of California, you basically just you really have to be a master of budgeting, or know people who grew all your food and weed to get deals. Um, on Astro.com, when I was a young man in my teenager years, I discovered this one thing that said, in my relationship with my mom, we shouldn't trust the authorities, but get multiple views, And then in this lifetime, I was going to ring my own bell because I was a monk at so many other lifetimes, that I have to choose my own personal basic sovereignty in this lifetime. And so I mentioned the Malidoma Some video about the psychiatric hospital, and I'm going to do a part 2 on this. Enjoy and subscribe if you like.